Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am doing a response video to Britta Böhler, who made a video about why reread. And I find this a very fascinating subject. A couple of other people have done this, and Novella and Michael K. Vaughan come to mind. I will list all their videos in my description so you can get a variety of opinions about rereading. Now, do I reread? Yes. About 20 to 25% of the books that I read every year are rereads. So I guess you can say I like rereading. But why do I reread? I think I reread because every time you pick up a book, for the first time or the second time, it's going to be a slightly different book because I will not be the same person as the first time. There may be some very rare occasions when I reread books very close together. But okay, let's step back and say, why should people reread? Well, one of the questions is, why shouldn't you read, or why not reread? The most common reason people give for not wanting to reread is that there are so many books out there. It is not possible to read all the books that I want to read. It just can't happen. I will not live long enough. I do not read fast enough. It's just impossible. So, why would I reread a book when I can pick up a new book and read it instead? Well, that's a very good question. And it comes to the point that it's like revisiting an old friend. Crime and Punishment. I've read that book probably 3 times in my life. And yet there's this something in me that wants to revisit and see how Raskolnikov is doing. Well, I know how he's doing because I've read that book 3 times. But still, I want to revisit Raskolnikov. Now, in the case of Crime and Punishment, I can always read a different translation. And Raskolnikov will be just a little bit different with each translation. But still, it's not that subtle nuance that may be important. It's the fact that I find Raskolnikov one of the most fascinating characters of all fiction. And I want to see what I think of him now from what I thought of him back when. And that's just one of the joys of rereading. There is something new in the old every time you pick up a book. And is that more valuable than picking up a new book? I don't know, because I haven't picked up all the books. But what I can say is, it is usually valuable to me to reread a book. So I kind of dismiss that because I cannot read every new book, it's really sort of futile to try. And the fact that I am rereading a book that I love, like Crime and Punishment, is going to be just as engaging and rewarding as picking up a new release. Well, maybe not a new release. I need to make a video about my sort of dissatisfaction with current new releases. But there are many older books published in the 70s or earlier, or even up to the 90s, that are well worth picking up. And I will have to not read one of those in order to reread Crime and Punishment. Now, Crime and Punishment is just one of the samples. It can be many types of books. I am currently rereading The Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut. I read that maybe 8-10 years ago. I really enjoyed it. I am in a Kurt Vonnegut reading group, and we are going to be reading all the novels of Kurt Vonnegut. in chronological order. Now, I have read all but one of his books, but revisiting the Sirens of Titan, I have discovered that a lot of those plot details, a lot of those characters, a lot of the wit and humanity that makes Kurt Vonnegut an important writer has just slipped from my memory because I read so many books. I cannot hold everything in my brain. So when I'm rereading, I am rediscovering, but it's also new because I don't remember exactly all the details of the characters and the plot. But it's not really the plot that I'm rereading for. I'm rereading to revisit with Kurt Vonnegut, to get some of his wisdom and his humor into me and reaffirm why he was a very good author. I'm also this month going to be rereading William Faulkner's great novel Absalom Absalom. Now, I read this in the 80s, and I can say that I don't remember a lot of the fine details. I remember the character of Thomas Sutpen. That Sutpen, because I remember when I was at university, it was a class, the college professor who was Southern had his drawl, and he'd go, "That Sutpen." So I want to experience that Sutpen again, and it will be a new experience because it was so long ago that it will be something new. Now, Britta Böhler in her video mentioned something that is really rather significant. She sometimes said that she doesn't want to reread a book because if it's been a very long time, you might be disappointed when you reread that book. And that is also very true. A few months ago, I reread a book, A Void by Georges Perec. It was translated from the French. And I read that about 28 years ago. And when I read that book, I was flabbergasted. It was such an amazing book. Now, the book is amazing because of the way it was written and the way it was translated. It had this gimmick. Now, I'm not going to mention the gimmick because my reading partner, Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot, didn't research this book before she picked up. She just read it, and she did not pick up on the gimmick until later. And it's a really, really good gimmick. Now, the problem with that gimmick is I read that when I think I was 30, and it just absolutely amazed me. My 58-year-old self said, yeah, he was a talented writer, very talented translator. But that sense of wonder, that amazement that made the book so fascinating was no longer there in my older self because I am not that young man anymore who could be enticed when reading a book with a gimmick, however clever and however intelligent. That part of me isn't here anymore. And that's an important thing to understand, that my memory of the book is fabulous. My reread of the book was good. Yeah, pretty good, but not that great. So I'm not going to be rereading that book ever again. That second reread was enough. Now, am I shortcoming? Am I shorting myself? Would my let's say 78-year-old self pick up that book and rediscover that magic of the 30-year-old? I guess it's possible. I'm going to keep the book because I really don't unhaul books like that unless there's something disastrous in my life. But yeah, there it is. So, as I said, I reread about 20 to 25% of the time. And as I look to the future, I'm going to go out and say that I think I'm going to be rereading even a higher percentage of books as I get older. Maybe it's just the fact that the new no longer is enticing. The siren of the new is no longer singing to me. And I'm looking to the past to rediscover what was great, even if my rediscovery may be a little disappointing. So we're going to leave it at that. I do think that rereading is really important for all readers. That even if you do not do it regularly, I think you should pick up books to read them and rediscover things about yourself that have changed over the years. Even though we have a limited time on this earth, I am content with the knowledge that I will not read every book that I want to read in this world. And I am content with the knowledge that I will reread some of them. Well, thank you for watching, and keep on reading.